Well, Happy New Year and welcome into the final episode of Talkin Ducks for this season. Oregon whomps Liberty in the Fiesta Bowl. We'll go ahead and recap that game. We'll also hear from Dan Lanning and then talk about the legacy of Bo Nix. Will he go down as one of the greatest players ever in Oregon history despite his brief stay? And then we'll look ahead. Oregon's future in the Big Ten. What does that mean for the Ducks? Does it make the college football playoff even more attainable? And then the Huskies in the national championship game. How do Duck fans feel about that? We'll get to that here in just a second. But let's go ahead and listen to Dan Lanning, his thoughts after Oregon takes care of business against Liberty in the Fiesta Bowl.
Talk about the things that are benefits of the bowl game. For us, it's connection. It's the time that we get to spend with each other one last time. This guy on the stage with me, some of these other guys, their last opportunity to get to spend some time with us. And for us to get to have a great opportunity to spend time together and then go out there on the field and finish it the way we wanted to. We said, this season and really this game was about unfinished business. And we said we're writing the last chapter to our book, and we had the pen. And I thought our guys wrote a phenomenal chapter. Started off a little bit hairy, but they finished it off the way Oregon's supposed to play. So really proud of these guys and thankful again to the Fiesta Bowl and the job they did.
All right, with that, we bring in the crew here. Joey Harrington, Anthony Newman, and from the Oregonian, Aaron Fentress. Joey, let's get rolling with you. You listened to Dan Lanning, and this was an Oregon team that seemed to have this mission of unfinished business. After the bitter taste left in their mouths from Washington, you get a chance to close out the year with a dominant victory over Liberty. You get to 12 wins, and now you elevate yourself into an even higher ranking to close out the year. But just your reflection on Lanning's approach to this Fiesta Bowl and what we saw from this Oregon team on the field.
Yeah, the start of his comments right there really resonated with me. Talking about family, talking about the connection of the players, the connection of the team and the coaches. And we've talked about this, for a couple years now. The way that Dan Lanning has come in and not just embraced the outside stuff, the glitz, the glamour, but embrace the community, embrace the culture, embrace the family of being an Oregon Duck. Is absolutely incredible. And it's what has made, he's got incredibly talented players. But Mario had some struggles with talented players. Willie had some struggles with talented players. What Dan has done in terms of laying the foundation for a long-standing program success, is you could not ask for anything more. It literally emanates from him when he talks about this team, these players, this program, and it's because of that. It's because of that feeling, because he was, I want to say, supported by or had the absolutely incredible Bo Nix behind center that led me to my absolute perfect, spot-on, absolute perfection prediction at the beginning of this season back in August. Can we go ahead and roll that clip?
No, we will. You've got your own segment for that, Joey, okay? So don't worry. We'll get a chance to give you your kudos. And how spot on you were with that
segment. Oh my God! I didn't know.
Yeah, I know. It's the final show, Aaron. We got to really stretch this thing out. But
Nick, do we not have the clip going?
We do have the clip. We're going to save that. We're going to pocket that for later, my friend,
because
it deserves
segment.
its own spotlight. But yes, make sure you stick around. Joey Harrington, spot on with his prediction coming into this season. And Anthony, to piggyback off of what Joey said, it's funny, all week coming into this game against Liberty, it was easy for us to sit here, how much does this game really matter? The result, Oregon plows through them. But I think Lanning hit something on the head that I personally kind of forgot about. This is the last game that this group of players will ever have together. And to come together one more time, that to me seemed to be like a really galvanizing force for this Duck team.
Well, Dan Lanning, and Joey talked about it, he's a dude. He knows how to coach. And more so when you look at the environment, the atmosphere, the culture, these guys want to be around that. When you talk about Bo Nix, he came back to play in this bowl game. Most guys wouldn't. The guy's going off to the NFL. He's a quarterback. He wants to protect his body. But no, he wants to come back and play with his teammates, with his buddies. And that's huge. That's gigantic. So Dan Lanning and the coaching staff, they have done an outstanding job of creating something that's just a lot of other programs don't have. And we talked about Dan Lanning last year. Okay, he needs to make some corrections. He needs to make the defense better. He did that. You know, you got to bring in some more offensive linemen. He did that. Okay, now you need to bring in some defensive linemen. He did that. This dude is the real deal, and he's going to be fun to watch here in the future.
So, Aaron, I mean, Oregon's approach to this bowl game left no questions. Sure, Liberty gets the first score of the game, but they made this game look like what you would expect from a top 10 team in the Pac-12 versus a Conference USA team that has never made it to a New Year's Bowl game. Your thoughts just on this game and the performance as far as the focus we saw from Oregon? This was a team that, despite the opt-outs, came in and looked like the exact same Oregon team that we'd seen all the weeks leading up into the Washington game.
Wasn't it so typical, though, that Liberty came out and just boom, 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 touchdown? It's like they practiced for a month. They had their script ready. They had their best go-to plays ready, and they went right down the field, and it was cute. It was cute that they got up 6-0, right? But you just knew what was coming, even though Oregon only got a field goal in the next possession. And Liberty actually won the first quarter 6-3, but inevitably you could see the talent difference. Oregon took care of business and won. And we talked about this last week. It's too bad they played Liberty. I think you would rather see, like, Florida State should have played Liberty since they had all those opt-outs, and Oregon should have played Georgia. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who you played. You won the Fiesta Bowl. You are Fiesta Bowl champions, 12-2. That Fiesta Bowl championship is going to go in the trophy case. Yeah, people will sort of remember who they played, but it's not going to matter. They won, and now Dan Lanning has a Holiday Bowl championship and a Fiesta Bowl championship. Next, you want to get a conference championship and maybe a national title. We'll see. But the fact that Bo came back and Bucky came back and other guys came back to end the season the right way after that heartbreaking and disappointing loss to Washington in the Pac-12 title game, it says a lot, because a lot of teams like Florida State, they feel like they got jobs out of the playoffs, so everyone just decided not to go to the Orange Bowl and play Georgia, which, you could argue one way that they feel, like they got snubbed and guys are going pro. That's fine. But to me, show up and make a statement in that game. Oregon showed up and made a statement with a dominant victory, 12-2, one of the top 10 seasons in program history.
And it's interesting because you end the season with 12 wins. And Joey, I don't know how much this impacts the momentum going forward next year. Obviously, it's good vibes when you're in your off-season training. You're coming off a victory. It isn't some disappointing loss, but just the hype machine around Oregon. How important was it to stay in that top 5, that top 6 of this year and in everybody's mind, and to maybe be in that conversation of, well, what if? And how much does this benefit Oregon, this victory, going into next year to at least get a little bit more momentum?
I don't think I don't want to say it's imperative, right? If they didn't win the game, could they have a great season next year? Absolutely. But what Oregon is trying to do is join the ranks of the perennials, right? Join the ranks of the schools that every single year are in the national championship conversation, right? Every single year we're talking about Alabama and Georgia. Every single year we're talking about Michigan and Ohio State. Every single year we're talking about Oklahoma. There are certain schools that are in that conversation at the beginning of every single year. And Oregon has been in and out over the last, better part of the last decade. I think there is some importance to validating the fact that Pac-12 Conference had 2 of the best teams in the country. Washington is obviously in the national championship game. Oregon was 6 points away from being in that position as well. And I think it is important, especially as Oregon and Washington are making that jump to the Big Ten, that there is that respect factor to start next season. Remembering, they're losing Bo Nix, but they still got a heck of a lot of players coming back on this football team, and a lot of really impactful players as well.
One thing that stands out to me, guys, as we kind of wrap up bowl season, you have the national championship game left, it feels like this bowl structure, Anthony, is really starting to kind of crack and crumble a little bit. What I mean is,
really,
we've seen the momentum of opt-outs, and I don't blame the players. I think it started with Christian McCaffrey, to be honest, and it's a wise decision for him. But between the opt-outs, between the transfer portal happening before then, between coaches changing teams, between just the difference in excitement with teams that are in the college football playoff versus those that aren't, to me, it feels like something's got to change here in the next couple of years. I mean, sure, people are probably tuning in because there's not much else to watch, but it just, you get the sense that this isn't the same as it used to be. Do you get that feeling after this year?
Well, it's funny because Kirby Smart, head coach of Georgia, after they just beat down Florida State, he told everybody, hey, we need to fix this. This isn't right. These bowl games, what's going on here? We have to fix it soon. And he goes, and I felt bad for Florida State. And here's the reason. And you said that. People, prior to the transfer portal and all this, you had people kind of opting out because of injury. Then, I'm going to the NFL. Now there's a transfer portal. So everybody's leaving. So the team that you started out with is not in that bowl game. The team that you started out with the first game of the year in August, that's not the same team. You have a fifth string quarterback. You have a bunch of new offensive linemen. You have new defensive linemen, new DBs, young DBs. What team is this? If I'm a Florida State fan, I'm like, well, who are these guys?
That's the 2024 team.
Well, yeah, but come on.
No.
No experience?
Let me jump in on that. It's not your 2024 team because Oregon State, that's not Oregon State's 2024 team. Oregon State won't even have that quarterback next season. Like that's the thing. Like for the first time in my lifetime, I don't care anymore. I mean, I'll be honest, and I know transition of life, and when you're in college and after college, you watch everything, and then you got kids, you don't have as much time. But I would still find time to carve out and watch Oregon State play Notre Dame. I didn't care, because I knew that Oregon State team was not the team that was on the field this year, and is not going to be the team that's on the field next year. That's the thing. It's absolutely irrelevant now, and you can say, well, it's an audition for other players, but that's not what the point of the bowl games. The point of the bowl games is to reward your season, reward your team for a great season, and pit them against a team that they wouldn't necessarily play in a nationally televised chance to showcase your program. And that just doesn't happen anymore.
It doesn't. However, the problem has kind of been fixed because we're going to have a 12-team playoff, which means you have 4 games in the first round, 4 in the second, that's 8, 2 Final Four, that's 10, and a championship game, that's 11. That's 11 bowl games. Now, you can call them. Some are going to be home. What I would do is instead of home field advantage, I'd call it a bowl game if you want to. Or maybe you don't, and that's fine. But when you lose in the first round and the second round, those 8 teams, they're done. They're not going to lose in the playoffs and then go to a bowl game. So the teams filling the bowl games are not going to be in that same position. And they will have some opt-outs, but not as many because they won't be as deeply talented as those top 12 teams. That said, my recommendation to fix and what should have happened this year, again, Fantasyland, right? Florida State should have declared, you should have a system where you declare who's playing and who's not. And once you figure out that Florida State's sending its B team, you have them play Liberty, and you have Oregon play Georgia if both teams are going to match up equally. But the system was so jacked up that you got Oregon blowing out Liberty in a ridiculous matchup. And then you got Georgia, number 4, destroying a number 6 team that basically quit because their players were pissed because they didn't make the playoffs. So that's just the product of the current system, but I think it's going to change moving forward because you're going to get 12 teams in the playoffs, and those 12 teams are going to all be at full strength, and those are the teams that matter most. Everyone else, whatever they do. It's not going to be that big of a deal as far as I'm concerned.
Well, okay, so I agree with you in the 12 team. Those 11 games will be fantastic. But if we're talking about the whole, so then what's the point of the rest of the bowl season?
Exactly.
Right? That's the whole. That's the point.
But it's the same point as it was in the past. But
no, but it's not. Hold on. Let me finish it, because what you're going to do is you're going to exacerbate that divide between the haves, who are going to be in the 12, and the have-nots, because those have-nots are absolutely meaningless. And those teams that play in the have-not games are your 7 and 5 teams, where coach leaves, where Jonathan Smith goes to Michigan State and takes half of his roster with him, right? You are literally going to have the MAC and Conference USA against B team, Big 10 and SEC Big 12 teams. That's going to be your have-not games.
But did people care that much? It's not like the ratings for those types of games in the past were that intense anyway. I mean, people cared about the big games, the big bowl games. And so now you're getting big playoff games that actually mean something instead of bowl games that we just romantically made into something that they really weren't. Like, you grew up with the fantasy of wanting to play in the Rose Bowl. Well, the BCS system screwed you and sent you to the Fiesta Bowl, but you played a top 5-10 team. But that system was still whack because Oregon should have been in a playoff system, a 6 or 8 team system back then, at least 4, and it wasn't there. So the history of college football is a joke when it comes to postseason and dealing with who's going to win the national title. Now it's changed, and yeah, do I care? The 7-5 team, the only people who really care about that team and who they play in the bowl game are the fans of that team. And they're going to be interested because they're going to want to see some of the new kids who they were celebrating when they were being recruited. So I hear what you're saying. I think there's still some problems, but I think at the most part, everything's going to get kind of fixed by the playoffs because now we won't have a Florida State not sending anyone to the bowl game because that team would have been in the playoffs.
I don't disagree. And as you kind of explained that, like, what was the draw for me for bowl season was always knowing that the Holiday Bowl on December 29th was going to be a hell of a game, right? Always knowing that the Peach Bowl on New Year's Eve was going to be a hell of a game, right? You always had a few of those games that were December 23rd, and then you had one on the 26th, and you had one on the 28th and the 29th, right? There were 4 or 5 of those games that you always tuned in to watch. And yeah, you're right. The rest of them, you just you flipped them on in the background as you were doing dishes, right? And I think that your point of spreading it's going to be 4 weeks? 4 weeks of a playoff, correct?
Yeah.
I think it's about 4.
Yeah, so 4 weeks of a playoff is essentially going to take care of that month of football where we're looking to have those games in the gap between what was the end of the conference season and New Year's Day. So yeah, I can see that.
So here's something for you. You mentioned Holiday Bowl. You played in a great Holiday Bowl, right? What was your ranking going into that game? Do you remember?
10?
Because you guys finished 7th. You were ranked 9th. So 11th? Guess what? Instead of you playing in a great Holiday Bowl, you'd have been playing in what? Playoffs.
Yeah, right.
See? It's getting fixed, baby.
Yeah,
we can turn the corner on this
you got
idiotic nonsense that we've experienced for all these years that even as a young lad at 8 thought was stupid. It's great that we're finally going to move past. And this season, it's fun. It's poetic justice that this season exemplified just how stupid it was. It should have been changed before this season. And then Oregon would have been in the playoffs. Florida State would have been in it. Georgia would have been in it. Ohio State, it would have been an amazing playoff because we all agree that those 8 teams, those top 8 teams, are all really, really close, right? Oregon lost by 3 points twice to a team that's in the national championship game. So that 18 playoff, or if it were 12, would have been monumental, but the college football suits jacked it up. So now moving forward, they can't mess it up anymore.
Yeah, said Aaron Fentress. So my idea was just get rid of the conference championship games and blow this playoff up to about 24 teams. But we'll save that for another day.
Yes.
All right, when we come back, we got to talk about Bo Nix's legacy in an Oregon jersey, one of the greatest to ever do it in a short time here. We'll break it down when we come back on Talkin Ducks.
Well, for me, my decision was simple. I wanted to go out and compete one more time. I wanted to go out and play another game. I don't think you're promised many opportunities to play the game of football. And with the year that we had, it would have been a shame if I, didn't go out there and finish with the guys who made it all possible. And so all I can go off is just my feelings and my decision. I didn't think, I never had a question if I was playing with it or playing in it. I just kind of thought, it was going to be assumed that I was going to play in it, to be honest with you. But there wasn't much of a decision, and for some guys that's different. It's all, situationally based. But I just couldn't wait to get back on the field with these guys after what happened on December 1st, and I couldn't wait to go back out there and compete one more time. And, if I had the opportunity, I was going to go use it. It's been a great career. It's been a lot of ups and downs, and, it's been there's been some great adversity, too, that I've been able to learn from. And, I wouldn't be here without, every year. Every step has been, another journey, and I wouldn't have traded anything.
What I'll do, say just to piggyback off that for Bo is, hopefully everybody up here on the, out here in the crowd realizes that this guy has the single season record for passing touchdowns, passing yards, and most touchdowns in an Oregon Bowl game right here at quarterback, not to mention set the NCAA passing record for completion percentage. So he's done a lot for this program. He's played in a lot of elite ball, and we're really proud of him.
Well, that was Bo Nix after the game, and time now for our legendary performance brought to you by Abby's Legendary Pizza. And simply put, Bo Nix will go down as one of the greatest quarterbacks in Oregon history, setting multiple records after this Fiesta Bowl performance, including the NCAA all-time completion percentage record. And Joey, it was so funny what many people thought about Bo Nix coming in as a transfer to Oregon. They saw the results at Auburn, a little inconsistency there. He closes out his time after 2 short years at Oregon with one of the best records over a 2-year period. And you look at the numbers, setting multiple records. Simply put, Bo Nix, one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever chuck it for the Ducks here.
I don't think there's any discussion about him being one of the greatest. I mean, I'll leave it to the unbiased Mr. Fentress to do the slotting, but there's no way that the season he had. I mean, and I hesitate to say this only because it's. I mean, is there any that? There's no way to say. He had the best statistical season in the history of our program. I mean, I think it's fair to say that.
Passing.
Setting, did you say fact?
Passing wise, yeah.
Passing wise. Greatest statistical passing season. Breaking the NCAA mark for completion percentage, passing marcus in terms of touchdowns, passing yards. Like, there was... Every single week, we were watching a conductor. We were watching an orchestra, and he, at no point during any game this season did we feel like he didn't have total control. Like that. That's the thing. Is there have always been moments, whether it's Achilles' season in 98, whether it was Marcus's season in 2014, whether it was, my season in 2001. Like, there have always been moments, or I should say more than moments, games where it's like, oh man, it's just not on. He just doesn't have it going right now. Like, I hope we can struggle through this and get to the other side and let's get a win. At no point during any game this season did you ever feel like Bo was not in total control. Like, yeah, they lost twice to Washington, but even in those games, he was absolutely stellar. So, I don't know. And it's hard for me to say it because there have been so many great seasons. I don't know. I'm going to let you guys debate the validity of this season and where it ranks, but it was pretty dang special to watch.
All right, Mr. Fentress, Bo Nix, all time. Where does he fit in your top 5 Oregon quarterbacks?
Oh, man.
I know you've thought about this. You'd be lying straight to my face if you told me you haven't put some thought into this.
So he broke Marcus's passing records, and he did it in one fewer game. So clearly, statistically, the greatest passing season ever. But Marcus's final year, they won a conference that had 6 ranked teams at the end of it. I think this is going to have 3. And he won bigger games, like the Michigan State game. That win was a top 10 opponent. That's a bigger win than Bo had in his complete 2 years at Oregon. And again, it's not always Bo's fault who he plays, right? This isn't all on Bo. And then, of course, Pac-12 championship game, Marcus won the Fiesta Bowl playoff game, et cetera, et cetera. So that season to me, and then you factor in the rushing numbers. I mean, Marcus rushed for 800 yards and 15 touchdowns. So Marcus had 49 touchdowns or 59 touchdowns, something like that. So clearly, greatest season ever. Still Marcus, greatest passing season ever statistically. Technically, Bo, but one other guy won bigger games, whereas Bo couldn't get over the hump in the 2 biggest games of the season. But again, it's a team sport. It's not all on Bo. But the other thing I wrestle with sometimes is the statistical volume of things today versus back in the day. Like I've maintained numerous times on the show, you put Joey with Parker and Howery and Peel and those backs in a spread no-huddle offense. Joey's putting up monster numbers compared to what he put up playing basically a West Coast system back in the day. Regardless of all of that, Bo Nix was a freaking Jedi. Like the 78, 79% is just stupid. That's video game. That's when my son's playing a video game. I say, you need to bump that up from rookie level to a higher level because it's too easy for you. And that's what Bo looked like at times. So, easily second greatest season ever. Do I say he's the second greatest quarterback in program history? I just wrestle with that because styles can sort of create sort of certain things, but definitely in that conversation.
Can I jump in here, Fentress, real quick? You reminded me of a conversation I had with my oldest son after the game, and he's like, "Dad, Bo is the greatest quarterback to ever play at Oregon." And I said, "Okay, you can stand on that hill. I'm okay with you to say that." But I immediately went to the fact that he didn't win a championship, right? And I go to Marcus and I say, like, Jack, Bo's season was absolutely like through the roof special. Like we just said, like could be the greatest statistical season. But Marcus won a Heisman and Marcus won multiple conference championships.
Just one conference championship.
Did he not win as a sophomore? Or I mean, as a redshirt freshman?
They had the tough Stanford losses, and back then they didn't. In 2012, you didn't get a second chance to play the team that beat you in your division because they had divisions. Whereas back in 2014, Bo wouldn't have had the chance to play in the conference title game at all.
I always assume, and I could.
But they were 12-1, but did not. Stanford won because Stanford beat Oregon.
That in that he won in 2014 season and 2012 season with the Alamo Bowl being in between.
Right, they didn't win in 12. Yeah.
Fine. Point being, just compare the single seasons. Marcus won
still
the Heisman.
12-1.
Yeah, Marcus won the Heisman, and Marcus won the conference championship. And I think that no matter where we are in terms of, what sport, and what time period, it always comes back to, did you win the championship? Yeah, Charles Barkley was incredible, but Michael Jordan won the championships. Yeah, and that's always what it comes back to. And I think that's going to be the decider for me, and the
800 yards rushing and 15 touchdowns. Let's not forget that.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big deal.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, would you rather have 800 yards rushing or would you rather have a championship? Like that's...
Well, I'm saying Marcus gave you both.
Marcus had that.
Marcus gave you both. Let me ask this question. If Bo and Marcus were competing for the starting job, who's going to win?
Ooh.
I think it's Marcus. I think Marcus beats him out. Marcus was just so much more dynamic.
Guys, I look at it differently.
Because you're a DB, bring it.
Yeah, exactly. Joey, I apologize. You were my favorite quarterback until Bo Nix. Okay? And think about this for a minute. Bo Nix, he was only here for 2 years. He wasn't recruited. He wasn't a freshman coming in, and we're going to watch Bo Nix develop into a great football player, to a great quarterback. He's been here 2 years. And what he did in 2 years, outstanding. I mean, unbelievable. And not only on the field, but off the field. And when I look at the players, and I think Marcus and Joey, I know the players respected you as well, but these players, he was everything to them. When he spoke, they listened. And you don't see that a lot. And he wasn't that type of leader that was a screamer, yeller. No, it was by example on the field. It was just being a positive guy on and off the field. And that goes a long ways. And for me, if I'm defending Bo Nix or Marcus, Bo, Marcus, and you, Joey, I'm gonna say Bo Nix might be more of a threat than all three of you guys, realistically.
All three of who? You said Joey and Marcus?
Joey and Marcus, yeah.
Well, so I guess the question is which question are we answering? Are we answering the who would be the starter, Bo or Marcus question? I think Fentress just said that Marcus was more like there was something that had you on the edge of your seat when you watched Marcus. Like there
so let me ask you something, Joey.
Let's not forget Marcus was putting up numbers as a redshirt freshman.
Yeah. So here's the thing.
Bo is struggling.
Like Marcus had you waiting for excitement. Bo had you just really comfortable. It was like, yeah, okay, Bo's just kind of doing his thing. And again, like both of them are incredible. But I think the difference for me is when you look back in 20 years, what are you going to remember? Are you going to remember that he set the single season completion percentage? Or are you going to remember a championship? Like that's what it keeps coming back to for me. If we're comparing like the incredible season of Bo versus the incredible season of Marcus, and how do you differentiate the two?
But the championships are won by a team, not a person. It's not tennis or wrestling. That's what I look at too. Yes, Marcus, they won championships and he helped them win championships, but he had other dudes to help him win those championships. He had a defense that helped him win championships.
But why do you call Brady the GOAT? Why was Joe Montana the GOAT before
Oh,
that?
no,
Why
no
do guys
question.
make the Hall of Fame and are left out of the Hall of Fame? Like that's the discussion. Would Eli Manning be in the Hall of Fame without 2 championships? I don't think so.
He's not there yet.
Like that's the thing. Like
I mean, Dan Marino didn't win a championship.
yeah, and
know,
there's a reason that he is always left out of that conversation of the greatest of all time. He was always left out because he didn't win, and I think that's the difference for me.
Anthony, are you
Yeah, a
saying you
couple
would take
things-
Bo over Marcus?
Well, I was going to ask Joey, who throws the ball better? Like in passing
Bo.
situations,
Oh,
Bo.
Does
See,
he?
So yes, I think so. I do. I think so.
but I think
So
Marcus is more explosive.
now, but think about this. So now when I'm defending the 2, I'm nervous about, Marcus can run the ball, but so can Bo. But now if they throw the football, if they stand in the pocket and can be a pocket passer, and your offensive lineman gives them time, they will eat you alive. That, to me, is Bo.
But
I don't
so
know.
here's the
So-
thing. Hold on. So look at this year's NFL MVP and Lamar Jackson. The reason I can tell you 15 guys in the NFL who are better pure passers than Lamar Jackson. But the reason that he is so successful throwing the ball is because he is such a threat running the football.
Oh, yes.
And that opens up. So the fact that Marcus was such a threat to run the football created more space. He didn't have to be as precise and as pure a passer as Bo did because he was such a threat in every area. And I don't know. I mean, we're splitting hairs here. I mean,
Yeah, we are.
Let me
It's
add one more
a
thing.
tough argument,
I
but
gotta add one more
I do
thing.
have a couple thoughts.
I got
Go
one
ahead,
more
Aaron.
thing. No, Jordan, no one cares what you think. You're the host. I got one more thing. Just kidding. No, one more thing. Remember, Bo is in his 5th year as a starter. He set the record for most starts. What would Marcus have done had he come back for his 5th year as opposed to going to the NFL? He would have been even better, right? Because he was better every season. So,
Bo was
what would Marcus have done if he'd come back for his 4th year?
no, but
Marcus only played 3.
I know, but this in the system. You're in the
no,
program.
We're talking about
You're
5th year
around.
we're talking about
You-
5 years.
You're making
playing.
friendships.
Bo played 5 years, 5 years as a starter. Marcus played 3. I'm saying if Marcus came back for his 5th year, which because he redshirted, if Marcus came back for that 5th year, his numbers would have improved theoretically.
Well,
He would
no,
have been
Aaron.
much better, and whereas Bo had improved from last year to this year, so Marcus could have improved as well. So I'm just saying, to me, there's no question it's Marcus. Bo, I mean, we can have the conversation for funsies, but I don't think it's a really debate.
Yeah, a couple things down to me, and again, this is one of those great Jordan, LeBron, Kobe arguments that you could sit in a barbershop all day long and get 10 haircuts as you discuss this. But I think Bo's 5th year obviously plays a huge factor into this, just the maturity of being in the college system for one more year. I also look at the fact that Troy Franklin, you had the greatest receiver in Oregon history to work with. That doesn't take anything away from Bo Nix, but Troy Franklin leaps and bounds better than any receiver that Marcus Mariota played with. And then lastly, again, it's not Bo's fault they didn't necessarily win these championships, but there's something to be said about
Big
can
wins.
you make that play or two, like Penix did against Oregon twice, to lift your team up in those close types of games, whether it is converting some of those short yardage 3rd or 4th downs that they couldn't get in Seattle, or if it is closing out the final 2 drives that kind of sputtered against Washington in the title game. And all that being said, you could win a championship with either quarterback, and I think that's says a lot about Bo Nix that in 2 years he could put himself in that conversation. And so,
I'm just
Bo,
mad.
we
I'm
love
just,
you.
I'm just mad at Marcus because he took my number. So that's all that matters.
The truth comes out. How is that
the
number not
salty
retired?
Anthony knew it.
What's going
All
on
right.
there?
We got to cut to break here because folks are going to fall asleep on this segment here. But when we come back, we're going to revisit Joey's prediction from earlier in the season. How close to the truth was he? We'll let you know when we come back on Talkin Ducks.
But if I had to bet money right now, I'm going 9. But I do feel like 10 is right there again. So we'll see.
Joey,
Wow.
your
Now
thoughts.
look-
Are you going to join this 9-3 bandwagon, or do you have a glimmer of hope for something better?
Hell no. So look, if you go through this schedule, right, and you say they're going to win every game at home, which, you start there, then, and if they lose, I'm saying if they lose those games at Utah, at Washington, that's 10-2, right? So you defend home, you lose 2 games on the road, that's 10-2. But that's not going to happen. You see what's actually, and there was, people are calling that Texas Tech game a trap game. I'm saying they win one of the two on the road, and they win all the games at home. They go 11-1 because Bo, as a senior, as a Heisman Trophy candidate, with all of this talent, let's not forget, we didn't even talk about the receivers that came in, the development of Ferguson, those 3 running backs, Troy Frank. I mean, look, this is an explosive offense led by the most efficient quarterback that Oregon has ever seen. This is a potential 11-win season, trusting that Lanning gets this defense back on track.
Joey Harrington,
wait.
take yourself a lap right there. Boy, it's almost like the guy that played big-time college football knew a little bit more coming into this season than the cat sitting there behind his keyboard just slinging stuff out. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Wait. First of all, I said the same thing he said, that if the defense turns around, I could see double digits. But
No,
who picked?
said 9 wins.
Who did I pick?
You said 9.
Who did I pick to win the conference?
What?
We're not talking about that. We're saying I would bet money.
You made an attack. I'm gonna react. Ooh, that's bars. I got bars.
The attack has nothing to do with Washington.
I picked the Huskies to win the conference.
The attack was that you would bet money that they win 9 games when point by point by point by point by point, I went down the line and called not only the regular season record, but who and where they would lose that singular game.
If the defense turns around, which is the point I made numerous times as well.
No.
Come on, man. You know what?
Nah.
Nonstra-Darrington is what they call me.
I love
Nonstra-Darrington.
it. Joey, when we get done, I've got a lottery ticket I might need to buy. I just need your help picking some numbers on that one. But, it's interesting because it's a year where Oregon ends up being 12-2 here, Anthony, and they could be in the top 5 when it's all said and done. Yet it still feels a little bit like a disappointment. I mean, what does this say about the state of this program here? I mean, there are years where folks would still be popping champagne at the end of this year, but standards have changed.
Yeah, a little bit. But if you're not happy with 12-2 and you won the Fiesta Bowl, you lost to a team that's in the national championship game, if you're really disappointed and like, oh, God, you should be. Come on, be a true fan. Understand what you had to go through. Understand that Dan Lanning's second year turned it around from last year. Yeah, the recruiting, bringing the right guys, the transfer portal, bringing the right guys and taking care of business. And we talked about during the season, all these tough wins. Oh, they got to beat Utah. Oh, USC. Oh, Washington. Yeah, they lost to Washington. But there was a lot of games. I don't know if they're gonna. I don't think they're gonna win that game. Hey, they took care of business. Yes, they're not in the national championship game. But there's about 130.
What are you talking about?
Listen, there's about 130 teams, D1 football teams. How many of those are 12-2? How many? I mean, and how many have lost 2 games to a team that's playing in the national championship game? I mean, come on. You got to be happy for this team.
Aaron?
So you guys know how I feel about this whole idea that the standards have changed and Oregon's above not winning the national championship. It's ridiculous. So 12-2 is a great season, top 10 season of all time. The disappointment should not be in, being the standards. It should be that you came so close to defeating a team twice that won the conference and is in the national championship game. That's what hurts, because if you look back at the past seasons, there's that happened with, which we talked about recently, 2012 when Oregon lost to Stanford, right? That was one of those 3-point games where if you win that, you're in the national championship. Joey lost to Stanford in a really close game. You win that, you're in the national. So that's happened before. So that's where the disappointment is, not because the standards have changed. The Oregon Ducks have won 1 legit Pac-12 title since 2014. And it's going to be interesting to see how many conference championships they win in the Big Ten. This 12-2 season might be their best season for a while. And I'm not saying that'd be disrespectful. I'm just saying you're going into a really tough situation where 2 losses might automatically be a given in that conference. So cherish the 12-2. Cherish the fact you had someone like Bo Nix come and sort of rescue this program from maybe being an 8-9 win team the last 2 years. And, lament the Washington thing, but be happy this is one of the best seasons Oregon's ever had.
So Joey, Aaron now spins it forward. You go to the Big Ten, which has got 19 teams in it, it feels like now. And where does Oregon fit in the pecking order? Because there's some question marks, of course, with Ohio State. Penn State's a perennial top 10 team, but has never been able to get over the hump. You've got Wisconsin, of course, Michigan, but you don't know what's happening with Harbaugh after this year. USC, UCLA, Washington's going to be dealing with some changes. Where do you slate Oregon into the Big Ten going into next year?
I'm trying to pull up Oregon's schedule right now.
While he does that,
okay,
Anthony, Aaron,
here we go. No. Here's the point.
Slated?
Here's the point. You make everybody makes the argument about going into this conference, you're going to be, a fentress here, maybe have 2 guaranteed losses. Is it Maryland? Is it Illinois? Is it Purdue? Is it Michigan State? Is it UCLA? Is it Boise? Is it Texas Tech? Is it Idaho? Is it Hawaii? Those games aren't guaranteed losses for me.
Well,
and the only
not
2
guaranteed losses.
But you just said you're going into a conference where you may have every year 2 guaranteed losses. That's what you just.
They play Washington, Ohio State.
No. Hold on. I'm going off of what you just said a moment ago. You're saying that 12-2 season should be celebrated because you're moving to a conference where every year it may be the best you have in a while because every year you could have 2 guaranteed losses. I look at this schedule with Michigan at Michigan and Ohio State at home, and I see a schedule that is eerily identical to the schedule that they had this year, where it's
they play Washington. They play Washington too.
The last game.
Yeah.
The last game.
You're playing 3 of the.
Oh,
you're playing
Washington.
3 of the
fine.
top
there we go.
7
Yeah,
teams
got
in the country.
Got it. Yep. I cut off at the bottom. You're playing Washington, but still, it's eerily identical with Utah, Washington, and USC. Right?
Utah,
Those are the
USC
3
fell
games
from
that we looked at. Yeah, Harbaugh leaves. Michigan for the better part of the last 15 years has been that USC kind of team. Are there great teams in the Big Ten? Absolutely. You're not going to play them every single year. I agree that this is a step up in terms of a consistent conference and in terms of entering all right, every single year you better be bringing it. But I don't think that next year's schedule or the schedule the year after is going to be that much different than what they played this year and went 11-1. Yeah, could they go 10-2 one? Sure, of course, but I don't know. I just don't see this massive jump. I think the expectations have changed. I think the recruiting has changed. I think Dan Lanning has this program in a position to be extremely successful for a long time coming. And are there a couple more really good teams in the Big Ten? Sure, but you're not going to play them every year. So I don't know that it really matters. I don't know. I like where Oregon sits. It's to me, the 2 words that you guys have used are happy and disappointment, right? I'm happy about what Coach Lanning has done. I'm happy about the success of the season. I'm disappointed because I saw how close it was. I saw how close they were to truly being, one of the elite, grabbing that national championship this year. That's where the disappointment comes from. But that's that small piece of knowing what could have been had a couple breaks gone our way. Overall, I'm happy about where the program is. I'm happy about where we're going. I'm happy about the foundation. I'm happy about the future. I don't know. I'm happy. I'm Pharrell right now.
Good. A happy Joey is a perfect segue into our final segment of the season. When we come back, we'll let you know how Duck fans should feel about the national championship game with the Washington Huskies getting a chance to win a title. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Talkin Ducks, our final segment of the season here, and we thank you all. And it's odd that we have to address this topic on the final segment, and that is the Washington Huskies playing in the championship game. It's the final year of the Pac-12. How fitting a Pac-12 team finds themselves in the championship game for the first time since Oregon faced off against Ohio State in 2015. And, Aaron, maybe you're not the best person to ask this, but as a Duck fan, the feeling of watching Washington defeat Texas and now they're going to play Michigan where they have a great chance to possibly win a legitimate national title. As a Duck fan, should you celebrate the West Coast and the Pac-12, or does this make you feel sick to your stomach that your rival that kept you out, you had 2 chances to beat them, might fulfill an undefeated season, a dream season for themselves?
Even as the objective observer, I feel the pain for the Oregon fans because if the Huskies win the national title, Oregon fans, I'm just the message to you Oregon fans on Twitter, you can't say bleep to Husky fans until the Ducks win one. You can't say anything. There's nothing you could possibly say ever. They bring up that 1991 split national title all the time. And the Ducks were able to go to the 12, they beat them 12 times in a row, right? Well, now Washington's won 3 conference championships in the last 7 or 8 years. They're in the national title game, which matches what Oregon did in 2014 by winning a playoff game. If they win it, what can you say? They're going to be unbearable. I might see if I can just block every Husky fan just because I just don't want to hear it. But this is the worst case scenario. This is worse than if the Beavers rose up and won it, I think, just because.
Nah.
You know what?
Nah.
Yes, it is.
Go ahead, Anthony.
It's worse because
not even close.
It's a different stratosphere of angst and talking and trying to win. It's sort of like, the upper crust of the conference. I feel badly for what this will mean if the Huskies win.
Anthony.
Well, you have to give credit to where credit is due. First of all, Michael Penix Jr., Joey, he's a dude.
He's a baller.
Oh my God. I mean, how do you stop that? And we were talking about quarterbacks. We're talking about Marcus. We're talking about Bo. Well, Michael Penix Jr. in 2 years there, wow. How do you defeat that? How do you beat them when he's throwing it where a DB can't make a play on the ball? There's no way. How do you win those games? So it's going to be interesting. Yes, this will be tough to watch them if they beat Michigan in the national championship game. Oh, yeah, but also it will give Oregon credit. Hey, Oregon can play. Oregon's good. The team that beat them won the national championship game. You got to look at it the glass half full.
No, you can't, Anthony.
But wait, I'm not done. Okay, it's still going to hurt. It's still going to go. Yeah, I'm gonna be bothered by the Washington fans posting all kinds of stuff. You're right, but the only way to fix that is do something the following years. Back it up. You go win a national championship game. Quit feeling bad about it. Quit feeling bad about yourself. Feeling sorry for yourself. Go win one instead of sitting there going, "Oh man, come on."
Joey, you got about a minute.
At least give them credit.
Oh, yeah, I give Washington all the credit in the world. They're amazing. Penix is ridiculous. Penix is a better passer than Nix and Marcus. Anyway, continue.
Joey, you got about 45 seconds now.
Oh.
45 seconds. Okay, I'll be quick. This sucks. No, Anthony, we would not feel good about our season if Washington won it. That sucks. This just sucks.
It's monumental, man.
Yeah.
The worst part is, it's tough that they have 2 likable people in Kalen DeBoer and Michael Penix as they're
great people.
They're likable people, but you gotta hate them.
Yep.
It just sucks. Go blue.
Go Michigan. Go Harbaugh.
Go blue.
I wish for the Huskies the same thing the Huskies wished for the Ducks when Oregon took on Ohio State. I'll just leave it that way. Whatever that may be.
I'm wishing for Michigan also, by the way, just to let you know. So,
either way, that'll do it for an incredible season of Oregon Duck football. Another one for the history books. We thank all of you for joining us. Big thanks, of course, to Joey, Aaron, and Anthony for taking some time every single week. We hope to stay in touch with you throughout the offseason. We'll be throwing on some shorts, having some conversations here that you can catch up on YouTube, but the table is set for Oregon to go to the Big Ten next year, and the excitement only increases. You heard about that schedule. Matchups against Ohio State, Michigan, Washington, and a brand new conference. From all of us here, happy 2024. We appreciate you rolling with us, and we'll see you at the start of next year.